Welcome everyone to the evening session of the 2021 USTA Eastern Tennis Conference. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you have been joining us all week, but we're happy to have you here with us this evening. We hope you'll also be able to join us for the virtual awards dinner following this session. I'm sure we'll put a link to that in the chat. If you can, we'd love to have you. This session that we're about to start is the Team USA, the Bright Future of American Tennis with Kathy Rinaldi. We are so excited to have Kathy Rinaldi joining us. Kathy is the current head of women's tennis at USTA Player Development. She joined the USTA in 2008 and served as a national coach prior to being elevated to her current role in 2016. Rinaldi is also the current Team USA Billie Jean King Cup captain and led the U.S. team to the title in 2017. During her professional career on the WTA Tour, Rinaldi reached a career high ranking of number 7 in the world. She captured 3 singles and 2 doubles titles and reached the semifinals of the 1985 Wimbledon Championships. Moderating this session is the Super Junior Comp team from Eastern, Gustavo Loza and Elena Bantovska. Thank you for putting this session together. Everyone's in for a real treat. And without further ado, take it away.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Kathy, for joining us. First of all, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight, and just thank everybody for tuning in, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Elena and I have a lot to talk to you about. We have so many questions. Some questions our team put together. We took others from the audience upon registration, and we also have some video questions from some players that wanted to ask you also some questions. So, well, first we want to start by talking about you. And we know that this year has been very different for everybody. And we were just wondering, you used to be traveling a lot of weeks during the year, coaching with all players. How has this been different for you? How have you been able to adapt your work schedule, periodization for players?
Right. Yes, that's a great question. Obviously, tennis players we're used to being on the road a lot. We're used to being on the go a lot. For me, I was traveling quite a bit to events, and I have been traveling since I was 12 years old, playing this wonderful sport. So it was a big change for me. All of a sudden to be home, just like for everybody around the world. Obviously, there were a lot of tough times, not just for tennis players, but for everybody. And so I think it was really a year of counting blessings, counting our blessings. And, I think the tennis community, we're such a close-knit community. And I think that really helped me get through those tough times, all of a sudden being, in your home and not going out as much, even locally, not being able to be on a tennis court with players. And, thank goodness for what we're doing right now, right? The technology was such a huge help in so many ways for us as coaches, but for the players, for parents, for the private sector, for the sections, it really brought us all together. We were really all in this together. And I think that's the message. And we got so much work done, and so we were so productive, whether it was just talking with players, holding seminars, webinars, talking with the parents, having virtual workouts. Really, I have to give so much credit to our entire PD team. What they did, they went above and beyond, for mental training sessions to talking about tennis. Analytics played a huge part with a lot of our top pros. It really gave coaches a time to really look at their players and in more depth. So we really hit the S&C, we really hit the analytics, we hit the mental skills, and even the nutrition, because our message all along was keep a racket in your hand, because I think that's what everybody loves. And that was what was really comforting, I think, as well. So I'm really super proud of not only my entire team, our entire team at the USTA, but really our tennis community, our entire tennis community. You know, my mom always told me you got to, you know, make lemonade out of lemons. And, you know, and I think that that's what we did. We really tried to make the most of it.
Absolutely, and technology is amazing, and it has opened a lot of doors, no doubt. And Kathy, in your role, you obviously talk to a lot of coaches and players around the country. How do you think is their morale and their feelings around not being able to play a full calendar and having to adapt, all cancellations? How do you think it's the overall morale?
Well, I think it was very difficult, you know, and I think some players and some people definitely struggled more than others. I mean, all of a sudden, something that you love to do is not there. You know, that's how they make their living. And there was always uncertainty of, you know, obviously, you know, we're all working together and not sure when tournaments are going to reappear on the schedule. And then also you have to take the training aspect, right? And now all of a sudden they're training, but they're not really sure what they're training for. I think I'm just so super proud of the players for just plowing through and using this time really to get better, to improve areas that maybe they wanted to improve, and also maybe open up their eyes and put things in perspective, and also be just, again, it's just such a year of being grateful for what we have. And so I think that the players overall handled it quite well, but I know they were so super excited to get back to playing. And when they played at the US Open and played the event, the Cincy event that was moved to New York as well, it was really just it was just joy for everybody to be back around people and to be back around your colleagues and your fellow players. It was really a celebration.
Well, welcome from me as well, Kathy. And I'm so happy to have you and share your experience and answer questions from our public. This year has definitely tested us all. It's been super hard. I'm just going to connect that to tennis and your background. What qualities would you say that you developed through tennis when you were younger helped you during this past year, I guess?
Right. That's a great question. And I love that question because I always say tennis really mirrors life in so many ways. It's an individual sport, which makes it so unique. It's only you. And, you know, you can't get tagged in if you're having a bad evening or a bad day. You can't, you know, they can't replace you and put somebody else in there. So you really learn a lot about yourself. You really have to dig deep. I would say resiliency is huge. Mental tough, you know, these players are just so tough. They're so determined. You know, there's so many great qualities that you learn from sports, those characteristics of a successful person. And so I would say, really, those are some of the ones that really help the players get through. You know, when you're in a tough battle out there and it's only you, and maybe things aren't going well, you got to really dig deep and find a way. So I would say problem solving as well. Right. You know, okay, I can't go to the gyms are closed. Maybe you can't get all the equipment because some of the equipment, you know, was even tough for players to get a hold of because that's what everybody was buying. And so, you know, they had to be creative and they had to be problem solvers and they had to be resilient. They had to be tough. They had to be determined and motivated during this time to really get better, use this time wisely so that whenever they were ready to play or whenever the opportunity presented itself, they were ready to go. And that was kind of the message that we were giving as well, because I think you don't want to break up your routine so much because, you know, obviously there was a lot going on, not just here in our country, but around the world. And some people were touched by what was happening too. And we're struggling with that. So I think tennis was a comfort. And again, it really brought us together. And we were really in it together. That was also our message. You know, you never want someone to have to worry alone or be alone during that time. So we really tried to do a great, you know, really do well with connecting with everyone on a regular basis.
Yeah. And just following up on that, who was this important person in your childhood that actually helped you?
Yes, for sure, my mom and dad. You know, super special to me. You know, my bond with my parents was super strong through tennis too. It even made it stronger because, you know, you go through the highs and the lows, and it's really important to have really good people. You know, surround yourself with great people. And, you know, my parents were always that strength for me. I knew that I could call them at any time of the night or the morning whenever I was on the road, or my mom would put little messages and notes and little, you know, gifts. Back then it was just like batteries or gum or, you know, little candy here and there. And, you know, they just instilled those values at a very young age and those characteristics. I think that's why we all get involved in sports is, you know, to teach our kids the characteristics of you know, that everything that the sport brings. And that's why I got into sports to begin with, was to learn those lessons at an early age.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, you mentioned something that is key. Parent support is definitely key for all players, particularly early in the career. And Kathy, early in your career, you were super successful. Even at 14 years old, you were already a very accomplished player, and you decided to go play professionally. Who helped you make that decision? Can you talk to us about that?
That's a very difficult decision. And it's a life-changing decision, right? So again, my parents, you know, at 14 years old, you think you know everything, but you don't.
Definitely not.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I really relied on my mom and dad, you know, and I think I was fortunate. I did have success early on, and I was moving in that right direction. So it turned out to be a great decision for me. But, you know, so much goes into that because, you know, you're 14 years old and you're still trying to, you know, you're just barely a teenager and you're just learning about yourself. And, you know, going through those teenage years is never easy to begin with. And now all of a sudden you're thrown into an adult world, and a very competitive adult world. And, you know, all of a sudden the spotlight's on you and there's a lot to deal with. But I think, again, the key thing is really surrounding yourself with great people that really have your back and that are not just looking at the now, but looking at the big picture as well. And I think that's truly what my parents tried to do. And, you know, they really kept me grounded. As far as, you know, being a good person was always so important to them, first and foremost, before being a tennis champion. And that was always very clear to me. I remember my, you know, my car rides to tournaments or my car rides to even school where, you know, we would just talk about life and those life lessons. So I think that's really important. And then the bond, you know, you never want the sport to come between your relationship. And I'm so fortunate, you know, you go through tough times. It's not a straight shot forward. And then you get disappointments and injuries and, you know, all kinds of things come up. But you know, your parents have your back, and they put things in perspective and keep them there.
That's great to hear. I think you've got such a great relationship with your parents. You're so
It
lucky.
is, and I only wish that for every junior player and for every parent. I went to a section workshop and, you know, worked with, it was all boys that weekend. And, you know, I actually kind of broke down and cried because I was thinking, wow, you know, tennis has given so much to me. I am so incredibly grateful to the sport and that my parents introduced it to me. And everything that I went through the sport, they were right there with me, and my bond with them couldn't have been any closer. And I only wish that for every young player, aspiring player, and parent out there.
That's great. And what advice would you give parents and families in terms of, you know, a lot of our kids and especially the parents, I mean, I guess that's for them, they're contemplating on, you know, just getting the kids into full-time homeschooling, just pulling them out of school. And then the other question is college tennis versus pro tennis, you know, the transition, and, you know, what's your advice on that?
My advice is everyone has their own path. And I truly believe that. I think we're sometimes it gets difficult is, parents or players will see a player maybe moving along the pathway a little sooner, or and then then they feel pressured almost. But everybody has their own path, and if you look on the tour now, every player maybe physically isn't reached their fullest strength yet, or emotionally hasn't reached that yet. So I really think you have to pay attention and really know your child well. And usually the writing's on the wall, I like to say. If someone's really moving well, you really see that. But college tennis really provides an incredible experience for so many. I mean, look at Jenny Breddy, look at Danielle Collins, look at Christy On, Nicole Gibbs. There's so many that went that collegiate route. And they say, had I not gone the collegiate route, I probably would not have made it. Whether it was just physically, emotionally, maturity wise, everybody has their own path. And I think that that's what you always has to be in the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, and just following up on that, what is your take on periodization and when to balance training weekends and tournament weekends? And I know, obviously, in this environment, is all,
right,
really unpredictable. You're not in a normal type of training, and tournament balance. But however, that's even a bigger question, right? I mean, how do you going from playing a high level tournament and then quarantine for 14 days, or, what's your take on that? Yeah.
Right. I mean, just look at our players now over at the Australian Open. We've had several in a hard quarantine. They can't leave their room. They've just put in a lot of training. Some, have been played the qualies, and now for 14 days, they're in their room. But again, that's where the mind, and that's where the resiliency, that's where the motivation, that's where the visualization, there's all kinds of things that they are doing to stay in a routine and to be as prepared as possible, because you just can't let your mind go down that negative pathway. You've got to stay positive, and it is what it is. It's out of their control. So they've got to concentrate on the controllables. But to get back to your question too, I mean, as far as, tournament play, I think it's so important. A schedule is so important at every stage. I think, I always like to look at the calendar and kind of work backwards. But I think, there's got to be time. Training blocks are crucial. You can't just keep playing. We always say maybe play two or three tournaments, and then, you need to come back and you need to have some work done, and then there's also rest. You've got to be able to put your racket down and get away and have a mental break as well as a physical break. Is so important for the body as well. So really putting together a schedule is really crucial. And I think that's where a team, the coach, the parents, the player, the trainer, that's where everyone comes and huddles together and puts the best plan for that player down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're totally right. Scheduling is so important. But before that, I want to go back a little bit to homeschooling, because we have a lot of players and parents listening that they're struggling with that decision. Is it right for me? When is it right? And how would you prioritize that? Is it when you reach a certain ranking, results? Is it when you're more independent, if you're doing good at school? What advice would you give those parents that are thinking of going homeschool versus staying in school?
Yeah, that's a hard one. And again, I think that's very personal. That's a tough decision. You have to know your child so well. You have to have a good plan for the education. Not homeschooling isn't for every person. And yet some thrive at it, right? So again, knowing your child, but also knowing the pathway that they're on. What are the goals? You can do everything right in tennis, right? You can do everything right, and there's no guarantee that you're going to make it. And, and so you always want to have a good education in place, because that's such a great route as well. Again, we talked about that with playing college tennis. So, it's a tough decision for parents. It really is, especially because some are really, really believe in the academics and want their child to get that great education. And luckily with the homeschooling now, there's several, I guess, that do provide, there's a great education there, but it has to be well organized. You have to make sure that your child's independent enough to do that. But when I played, I went to school, and it was difficult. And even through high school, when I was playing on tour, it was difficult. I think when you get to a certain level, then it becomes, it's a lot of stress on someone when they have to, you have to compete, and then you have to also show up for the classroom too. So it's difficult nowadays. I think the schools were more lenient when I played. Nowadays I know they don't allow you to miss much school, and that's very difficult because of the tournaments. So it's a big decision. It's not one that I don't think that I can tell a parent what to do on that, because I think they have to make the best decision for their child. So I know I'm kind of skirting around that question, but I do think it's not something, it's just like me as a coach, I would not tell someone to turn pro or either, because that's a life-changing decision. So I think that really comes down to the parents and the child.
Yeah, and no, 100% right. That's great insight. And going to college, it's not mandatory that you need to be homeschooled to become a great player. You can do it through the college route, like you mentioned. So some example, that's great. And another question we get a lot, but I think you can answer it a lot better, is we always get this question: my kid is 12 years old. How many tournaments a year do you think that he should play? My kid is 14 years old. How many tournaments a year do you think he should play? Can you give us some insight on that and your reasoning behind it? Because I know every 12-year-old is different, right? But what would be your take on that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a loaded question, because
sorry for that. We get it a lot, so we need your help to answer it.
But you also have to take it, how physically mature the player is. So it's interesting, because I did see that question, and I was looking at some of our pathway studies and some of the metrics that we put together. And, for the 10 and under, we put up to 12 events. And then when you go up to 15 for 11 to 13-year-olds, and, that's about up to 60 matches, we say, is probably about right. And then 15 to 18 tournaments for 12 to 15-year-olds, that's about 60 to 80 matches. I mean, you really want to kind of look at the match count too. Obviously, our sport is, it's a confident driven sport. You want players to get a lot of matches. You want them, especially at the young ages, you want them to learn how to play and how to problem solve, and how to compete. But there's a fine line too of playing every single weekend. So, those are some of our metrics, but again, everybody's a little bit different. So
I hope everybody wrote this down, please.
I did, for sure.
Note it down.
Yeah, no, that's
great.
I mean, that's an amazing answer. I
Right,
think
yeah.
it's a great guide that you mentioned there, and it's very personal, and it depends on the school, depends on the parents, depends on a lot of issues, a lot of different that is characteristics that are very individual to each family.
If I can add one more thing to that, I don't believe in skipping steps either. So if you have a 12-year-old, okay, that's doing great in the 12s, fine, move them up to the 14s. But if they're not winning events in 14s, I see some parents, they'll put their kids in the 18s and now
Yeah.
they're just losing first round. And that's, you've got to learn how to win as well. And so I think the most pressure I ever felt was playing my peers. You know, my parents, my dad was very good about, you know, even when I was winning everything in the 12s, I still played the 12s. And I really think because that's the most pressure anyone will feel. So I always believe in earning your way up. And, you know, I've had a couple players that maybe jumped up to the 18s and they kept losing, but they weren't that, you know, they weren't that upset. Oh, I'm the youngest, no problem. I'm like, no, you're going to come back down to the 14s and you're going to prove that you can beat your peers in the 14s. And if you can beat the peers in your 14s, then you can go to the 18s. But if you're not winning the 18s, we'll drop down to the 16s and get matches. And so, you know, you're always looking to see what that match count is because, you know, it's so important that they are winning matches and that they're getting a lot of matches under their belt for that confidence. So that's just something, you know, that I have always done as a coach, and it has served well. And I think it also prepares the players when they go to the higher level that they've been under that, they've learned how to deal with that pressure, because you can't really hide out there eventually, right? There's always going to be younger players coming up, and there's always going to be, you know, players coming up, and you're going to have to face them. So, you know, the more you can do that, I think the better early on.
I think that is so helpful for parents and players listening, and just pivoting a little from that subject. We want to talk about the relevance of character skills, right? You talked about a couple, but I know player development has done such a good job of emphasizing those character skills, qualities like resilience, you mentioned, respect, confidence, professionalism are always at the forefront. Why do you think those are so important, and particularly in the younger ones?
Well, it's everything. It's a foundation, right? When you're young, we're building a strong foundation, and it's not just about tennis. I mean, we're building champions and, you know, on and off the court. I mean, it's always the player first, the human part of the player first. It's not the tennis first. So we really believe that building strong character is going to make them a stronger player. And, you know, I think that that's why we all got into sports, and our parents put us into sports, right? It's learning how to be part of a team. It's learning about confidence. It's learning about determination, professionalism, resilience, respect, toughness. So, you know, all of those characteristics are not just to build a tennis player, but that's to build a human being, a strong human being, and a good person. So that's why it's so important.
And on my end is how do you think, or what's your advice on facilities, academies to foster these characteristics and pass along to the next generation of players in their programs? Like how they, you know, how to do that in the best possible way?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think to be a good role model, you know, by displaying all of those characteristics that you're asking of a young player coming in. So, you know, I think that starts with the leaders, right? And then, you know, I think a lot of camps, you know, we always emphasize one characteristic. And, you know, whether it's resiliency that week, or whether it's respect, or whether it's confidence, we always try to pick a characteristic for a camp every time we have a camp of kids and show them the different ways. You know, tennis is going to build that. I mean, it's tough. I mean, you know, when you're out there and you're working those kids hard and they're putting everything they have into it, they're building those characteristics. So that's another way that you can build that. And then I think, you know, just I'm a big believer in journaling. You know, I think that's so powerful for a child to be able, not on the phone and not on a computer typing, but with a pen and paper. There's really something quite powerful about that journaling, and really talking about some of those characteristics. And then, writing their own thoughts about those characteristics, and then talking about it as a group. Really emphasizing the importance of these characteristics. So I think those are some of the ways. And then, of course, having signage, in the gym and things that the kids can see and relate to, some great quotes from some tremendous athletes, and listening to these athletes talk about how important this was to them and their upbringing and how they've instilled that into their sports. So I think these are all great ways.
That's great. And my next question is basically revolved over the fact that there's so many aspects, right, to build a player. It's nutrition, it's the physical part, it's the regular development, it's even your parents and your genes and all that and all that. There's just so many things going into developing an athlete. When do you think we should start focusing more on the mental game aspect during the development?
Right. I think,
yeah.
I think right from the beginning, I think, again, at the foundation, when kids are just starting to learn, you want to talk about all these different, start educating them. I think, mental skills has come such a long way in sports and in our sports. It used to be a little bit of a stigma with, you didn't want to tell anybody you're working with a sports psychologist or something, that was a weakness. But now we see all these wonderful athletes and how powerful it is. And, to be honest with you, when you're out on tour and you're a young player out on tour, you're dealing with so much and, and not just the tennis world, but personal life, everybody's got a story, everybody's got a background. And sometimes you just need somebody to talk to and vent to. So I think that's come such a long way. And I think the more that we can, educate at the base, with the young ones, they're just going to have a really solid foundation to build off of. And then, as they become older, some need less, some are very strong in the competitiveness. They don't need a lot, but everybody needs to know routines. Everybody needs to know certain things. And so I do think at the base is the perfect time with nutrition. I think that's great. And not just to educate the players, but let's educate, the parents too, because they're with the players and they want the information too. And they play such a big part of their children's sports and then their lives. They spend a lot of time with them as we do as coaches. So I think it's really important to educate them as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and that is something in the Eastern section we're definitely trying to promote, and working together with coaches, with the private sector. You alluded earlier, and we wanted to ask you. To develop a player, you need everybody collaborating, right? The private sector, private coaches. You need USTA to have the tournament structure, the pathway. The parents need to play also a role. But what is your overall thoughts in that? What does being part of Team USA mean to you?
Well, that's just what you just said. It takes a village, right? I mean, we all have to work together, and it takes all those different, team members, and we have to remember, we're bringing up the next generation, and then that generation is going to bring up the next generation, and this is about, something greater than just ourselves. It's giving back to the sport, and it's impacting young lives in such a positive way. Whether they make it all the way to the pros or whether they go to college, whether they go on and work for the WTA, ATP, there's so many wonderful routes for young people in this sport. So it really takes all of us working together, learning from one another, and then taking that information and putting it to work every single day while, whether we're here at the National Center, whether we're at a local club, wherever we are. And that's the beauty of our sport.
And just following up on that, what do you think is the best way for parents, coaches, and USTA? And I think we've done that before, and we've tried to collaborate together and work as a team together, because it's not a village. I think the whole country is there for, to help. And when we're looking at the US Open, we want that player to, succeed, and everybody, the crowd is involved, everyone is involved. So how, again, do you think parents and coaches, USTA can work better together?
Yeah, I think we have really come a long way with the Team USA initiative. And I just think there's so much information out there. I think, we've connected so many with the sections and with local clubs, with the players. I think, again, I think this is a great format and platform for all of us, with the Zoom and just being able to talk to one another and to share that information. I mean, we're sharing information on our site, there's so much information. And I just think that we have to listen to one another, work with one another, and learn from one another, really to create the best players, the champions, but also, most importantly, to continue to grow our sport.
Yeah.
That is certainly our goal, and we hope to play a small role in contributing to develop more successful players. And Kathy, we also want to talk about your role as Fed Cup, now Billie Jean King Cup, Team USA captain. You won the title in 2017, which was great. And you have an amazing depth of players to choose from. U.S. women's is so filled of great players. I have a couple of questions on that. The first, how do you keep in touch with them throughout the year? And how do you maintain a team atmosphere?
Right. Well, that's not easy because everybody's in different directions and there's a lot of tournaments typically. But I go to quite a few of the events. I watch and support the players quite a bit. I try to stay in touch with them via text or phone calls. I try to make some home visits, which I did, before some of the players went to the Australian Open. I feel very fortunate to be captain of the United States Billie Jean King Cup. It's a complete honor for me. It's something that I will never forget for the rest of my life. It's not something that I take for granted for one day. I just, to be surrounded by all these amazing young ladies has enriched my life and has given me so much. I always say I've gotten so much more out of this than I could ever give them. And they give me a lot. And that 2017 win was just, that whole year, my first year, was absolutely incredible. But I have to say 2018 too was incredible, even though we came up a little short in Czech Republic in the final. But, again, some great life lessons, great stories, and, with Sonia Kennan there, and then coming back the following year and clinching some wins for us and going on to win an Australian Open, and, and just so many great, so many great stories from every tie. It's just really amazing. But 2017, obviously winning the title after, I don't know how many years was it? It was quite a few years since we had won it. So I was relieved. And I know the players
Congratulations.
were super excited. We had so many great players, Coco Vandeweghe, and, just so many great, Shelby Rogers and Lauren Davis and Allie Risk and Bethany Maddox. There were so many great players that contributed that entire year to that win. And Coco, of course, was the MVP of that year. She really stepped up for every tie and was incredible. So, just blessed to be a part of it. Like I said, I just treasure every moment of it. And we are preparing already for this year. We didn't get to play the final last year.
Well,
so
this year it is.
A new format this year with the round robin. And so we've already started, my team and I have already started here trying to prepare for that. So be, selecting a team fairly soon. Fingers crossed it's happening.
Can't wait. Yeah.
And we'll for sure know that you'll do a fantastic job with the team. Wow. And we actually have some questions about that, right, Elena, from our young players?
Yes. So are we ready to go to the video questions?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good. Here we go. 1 second, we're getting there.
My name is Summer Chandler. I'm a student from the John McEnroe Tennis Academy. My question is, as captain of the U.S. Fed Cup team, what strategies did you use to help unify your team to win?
What were the strategies?
To unify
Yes.
your team.
Oh,
To win.
unify my team. Well, great question, Summer. Wow, super question. You know, I'm really big into team spirit and team building, obviously. I always believe that you can have the greatest players on a team, but if you're not really unified as a team, it's going to be very difficult. So, you know, we always try to do some fun things, a team building. We've done escape the room. We've done, you know, we do game night. So there's always something that's planned just for the team, for team bonding. But these girls, I tell you, they know each other quite well. And so when they get there, I just try to make this a special experience. I want them, when they think back on their careers, wow, that was just incredible experience that I had at now it's called the Billie Jean King Cup. But so I think it's really important that I do strategize, that I do unify a team. Like I said, if you don't have good chemistry on the team, it really can have a breakdown.
Yeah, that's for sure. Our next question is from Katerina Sevcikova. She's one of our very good 10 and under coaches, one of the best in the East. So here we go.
Oh, okay, great honor. She's doing the
My
real
name
work.
is Katerina Sevcikova. I'm the Associate Director and 10 and Under Director at Grand Slam Tennis Club in Banksville, New York. And my question today is for Kathy Rinaldi. Hi, Kathy. Obviously, you have coached a lot of up-and-coming and high-level professional players over the years. But I'm wondering what lessons you may have learned from these players, and what are some of the most important things they taught you, and how did that evolve or change your coaching style or philosophy? Thank you.
Wow, I can tell she's a great coach. Thanks, Katerina. And first of all, I want to applaud her on her work that she's doing at the base. That's where I started, and I love that. That's the important, really important, to get those kids the strong foundation that we were talking about. So I applaud her.
Yeah.
Great question. They have taught me a lot. There's been a lot of teachable moments. I think patience is one. I think it's really important to have a lot of patience. I think you can't coach two players the same way. You have to understand a player's personality. You have to understand their dynamics around them. I really now try to not only know the player, but know their family, know their dynamics, try to learn what makes them tick a little bit. That helps me with coaching them. So I think, you know, those are some of the things that I've learned. I've also learned that I'm not always right. We all like to be right?
Good lesson,
you know,
no?
they have strong opinions, and that, you know, sometimes they are right, and that you can't be afraid to even if you don't think they're right and they make a mistake, it's okay, because they're learning and they're growing. And I think that's so important. And I continue to learn all the time, to be honest with you. I think, you know, we ask the players to continuously learn and have that growth mindset for success, but I think it's so important that we as well. And I've learned, really, you know, maybe sometimes it's just not to say anything.
Right.
You know, I always thought, I think as a young coach, that I needed to always be coaching and talking, but you know what? I've learned that no, you know, let them problem solve, let them figure it out. And I think that that's another thing that I learned early on. So great question. And I wish her the best of luck.
I'm so happy we have coaches on this call. I can't tell you. This was a great insight.
Advice,
Thank you so much. Yeah, this was so good.
Thank you.
Next one is from Emiliano.
Hello, my name is Emiliano Sinkarvalhal. I train in Center Court Tennis Academy in New Jersey. My question to Ms. Rinaldi is, how do I control my emotions on court, especially in matches?
Oh, how adorable is Emiliano? Oh my goodness. That's something that we all have to do, right? We have to learn how to use our emotions. Emotions can be good. They're not always bad. I think if they're used in a good way, there's nothing wrong with showing a little emotion. Sometimes you just keep holding things in and you don't show anything, it kind of boils in there. So sometimes, it's, if you're going to show a little emotion now, I'm not saying going and cracking a racket or, doing anything that's going to get you in trouble, but, emotions are good. As long as you can use them and long as you can then hit the reset button and be ready for that next point. I've seen plenty of players that have been emotional, and it's how you react to things. Now, you don't want your emotions to be up and down where they're draining you physically either. So I think you just have to be aware of what the emotions are. And I will say that visualization is really a great tool for how you want to handle yourself, how you see yourself handling different situations on court. So many athletes now, not just in tennis, but athletes and other sports are using the visualization to really help. So, have those emotions, but use them in a really positive way and be the player that you want to be out there, but see yourself being that player that you want. Visualize that and visualize how you might maybe react. That's why I love journaling so much, because especially at the young ages, I think they have a chance to rewrite so many stories, I say. So, we had Dr. Jim Lair, who was, one of the best, maybe the best in my opinion, but he's incredible. And he would always say, you've lost a tough match. You didn't react to things very well. Right after that match, go rewrite how you would handle that situation a little bit differently, with pen and paper. And, it's so powerful. And if you continue to do that, pretty soon you're going to find yourself in that situation being exactly how you see yourself. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, that's amazing. Visualization, if I can pronounce it.
It's great for life, right?
No, it's perfect. I've experienced so many things in the past few years. This is not about me, but visualization and meditation as well. I mean, those are things that are coming up in the past, so many few years, I guess, that players should start using more and more. Absolutely.
I agree with you.
Yep. Caitlin is next.
All right. These are great questions.
I'm Caitlin Carcella. I train at Chester Tennis Club in Chester, New Jersey. And my question for you is, what do you look for in a player besides ranking when selecting a member of a Fed Cup team?
What do you look for in a player besides ranking?
Sure. There's a lot. Thank you, Caitlin. That's a great question. You look at a lot of things. There's a lot of things to take into consideration as a captain. First of all, the toughest part of being captain is, as Gustavo said, that, there's so many great players. So I want to take a good
problem.
You can't. So, I really have to look at the surface. I really have to look at the matchups, maybe to the countries that we're playing. You look at the team chemistry. You look at team spirit. You look at all of these things and take this all into consideration. But as you see, I mean, there's so many great players. And then you also have to take doubles into consideration too. So you really have to. And now doubles is going to be super important in the new format as well. So, there's all kinds of things to look at, people, because not a lot of times doubles players don't play together. So you have to look at, who might, complement each other's games, who complements each other well. So, there's a lot that goes into it. And then you also have to see who's available and who's, hopefully everybody's healthy, but schedules are crazy for some of these players. So sometimes they're not all available either. So you really just take everything into consideration. I know I have amazing players though. They're all great team players, and they all have been. So every Fed Cup week and now it's Billie Jean King Cup, but it's been extra special because you really get to know each other a lot better and you have this bond. Because tennis is such an individual sport, you're all coming together as a team for the same goal, and that's to bring the cup home and keep it home. So it's pretty spectacular. These girls leave their heart and souls out there on the court. So I have tremendous fighters when they get out there and they're fighting for their country. It's pretty incredible.
I'm so glad you mentioned doubles. This is so important, and
yes.
I feel we're not doing enough. Yeah, especially for college even. I mean,
yes,
they'll get to you after, I promise.
Well, you bring up
college.
There's about 18 we have 18, I believe, American women in the top 100 in doubles. Incredible. And a lot of them played in college.
Yeah.
So it's pretty important, and they're making a great living. Some of those obviously are singles players, like Sonia Kennan, Jenny Brady, Allie Riss. Some of those girls, are doing very well in singles, but there's a lot of girls out there that played collegiate tennis and are making a tremendous living and making a great impact on our sport through doubles.
Yeah. Next up, Emil Grancharov. He has a good question too. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Emil Grancharov, and I live and train in Westchester, New York. And my question for Kathy Rinaldi is, what is the biggest difference in training boys and girls? Thank you.
I love it. I wish I could work with boys more. I love working with boys. I have a son too. I would say tennis-wise, basics are basics, right? I mean, you're going to give them a great foundation. I think, again, it's personalities. And I think I took a young team. Actually, Brandon Nakashima was on that team. Took him to the LeBlanc Cup with Amanda Anisimova and Adam Neff. And anyway, we went to the LeBlanc Cup, and I got to coach both. And I loved it. The boys were, they were very open to the coaching. They were just a lot of fun. But, I guess with boys, you can kid them a little bit more. They like a little more trash talking, I think.
True, I've seen that too.
Oh yeah,
you can push them a little further there.
Although some girls are very good at it, you don't underestimate the girls, but really, it doesn't matter who I coach. If somebody loves playing and they want to get better, and they're respectful, you know what? It's just great. I'll coach anybody.
That's good. Next one is from Sophia.
Hi, Kathy. My name is Sophia. I'm 16 years old and I'm from New York City. My question for you is, what is one piece of advice you would give to your 16-year-old self? Thank you.
Oh boy. Wow. These are unbelievable questions.
Bright kids too, and good players as well.
You know what? I think I don't know everything. I think when you're 16, I was very strong-minded, thought I knew it all. So I think that's one thing that I would probably go back. And I think, being a coach now, I wish I've learned so much that I wish I would have, like, the things that I'm working with players, with the growth mindset, I think I would have been even a better player, to be honest with you. So I think everything I should be a little bit more open and a little bit more of a growth mindset, not so stubborn.
Yeah. Listen to your parents and your coaches.
100%. Listening is so important.
Very key. The next one is the cutest of them all. So this is Valentina.
Hello, my name is Valentina Sinkarvalhal. I train in Central Court Tennis Academy in New Jersey. My question to Miss Rinaldi is, how do I think quicker in a match?
One of our Orange Bowl players.
Yeah, she needs to think quicker in a match. She has to make decisions fast. So
I think we lost Kathy. She might be
Did we?
joining again.
Okay. This is great though, right?
Can you hear me?
While we're waiting.
We can hear you, Kathy.
She's back. Did you hear the question? Kathy? It's all good.
Yeah, she'll join again shortly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also,
Me?
yeah, we can hear you, Kathy.
Huh.
Still here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. For some.
Cutting out a little bit.
Yeah. Try
Okay,
turning off.
I'll try this again, but I'm not sure what's going on with my internet. I don't know.
Well, we
It's
can hear
okay.
you now.
We can
were
hear
you
you.
able to hear the question, or do you want us to repeat it?
I did not hear the question. I'm sorry.
So Valentina was asking, she's an Orange Bowl player of ours at center court, and she was asking how basically she should think faster. It's more of a decision-making questions on the court when she's playing a match.
Right.
At that age.
Well, that's a great question. I think what would help her is maybe to think in bullet points. You know, you don't have a lot of time to think. And so I would say between points, I would just think in bullets, you know, first serve wide, or, you know, just very simple. And I think, you know, you have to have a strategy before you go out there and kind of stick to your game and stick to your game plan, and then be able to make adjustments, of course. But I would just say, don't second guess yourself. Always go with the first thing that you think about. I feel like a lot of players do that. You know, they'll think, oh, should I do that? Just go with your first instinct. Yeah. And then in between points, just thinking just a couple bullet points. Keep it very simple.
That's a great advice.
I think we have the last two questions. Marilena?
Yeah, last two.
All
Enthusiastic group of players. Here we go.
What qualities do you look for in a Fed Cup player?
All of you. I like a great team right there. Adorable, close, great team. They look like great teammates.
Yep.
And again, looking for someone that's going to put the team first. That's not going to, it's going to be not about them, you know, because everybody that comes to plays Fed Cup, Billie Jean King Cup, they're all great players. They're all superstars, right? So it's really putting that aside and really making the best decisions for the team. Looking for someone that loves to play Billie Jean King Cup, someone that loves to compete and that's going to fight all the way to the end, be that great team member. And I think those are all really important qualities.
And our last question for you, Kathy.
Last question is from a coach, Victoria from the Leeds Center. Very familiar place to me. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Victoria. I coach at Kerry Leeds Tennis Center. Kathy, what's the most challenging thing about coaching for you?
Did you hear that? What's the most challenging thing about coaching?
Okay, well, hi to everybody at the Kerry Leeds Center. I know several Jay Devichetti and that I worked with at the USTA for many years is there now, and a few others. So great tennis center. And great people. I would say the toughest thing about coaching, I think, is when you see your players struggling. I would say that that's probably the toughest thing for me. and to really try to be there for them. You want everybody to succeed. And I think, there are times where things aren't going well, and you just wish that you could do more for them at those low points. But I try to be in their corner and always they know that I'm there through thick and thin. And I hope players will know that I really care about them as human beings first. But, sometimes you have to, you see some players that are struggling, and that's difficult, because sometimes you feel a little helpless at those times, and you do what you can. But so I would say that would be the toughest part of coaching.
Thank you so much. I mean, from me, I just loved what I heard. I hope all our audience wrote things down, because I would have.
No.
It's so important. So it's such great tips. Gustavo, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Last
I
words,
also want to thank you for taking the time. This was amazing. Hope our parents and players and coaches enjoy it. Like Elena said, take some notes. So thank you, Kathy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And for our listeners, we do want to remind them that our award ceremony is taking place in a little bit less than 15 minutes. So if you want to tune in to our Eastern's Facebook page, it's actually presented by Luke Jensen, who Kathy knows very well. So.
Oh, Luke, tell him I said hi. I just want to wish everybody really the best of luck with their tennis, and the parents, I really wish you the best of luck and enjoy the journey with your kids. And I wish everyone much success.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.